trust, always verify. ZTA, how to implement it successfully. And for this fireside chat, I would like to call Ashton Director, CAO, CGO, CISO and Head of NatWest Markets as the moderator. A big round of applause for Ashton, sir. Mr. Basil M. Dange, Chief Information Security Officer, Aditya, Birla, Sun Life AMC Limited. Put your hands together, please everybody. And Mr. Hiren Pandya, Chief Information Security Officer, Reliance Nippon Life Insurance. Big round of applause. Welcome, sir.
So thanks everyone for joining in this afternoon session. First and foremost, I must thank Dr. Ravi and the Elets team for giving us this opportunity and platform to be able to share our views both on as speakers and as delegates. I must also thank all of you for coming here. This session is usually a graveyard session, as they call it, post-lunch, after most of you all have had a hearty meal. I'm expecting some participation, so we'll try to keep it as interactive as possible. And I will also welcome participation from the audience. If anyone of the audience has a query for any of us on the dais, as and when we speak and share our views, I must request you all to please raise your hands, and we'll try to take questions right in at that time itself, rather than waiting for the end. Okay, so we'll try to keep this as interactive because of the fact that this is immediately after lunch. Okay, so thanks everyone once again. And before I again start, I must also mention, generally views, opinions expressed by all of us on this panel today are being made in our personal capacities, may or may not be subscribed by the organizations we represent. Okay, and with that, we come to the topic that we have for discussion today. Before we go there, let's discuss generally what we actually do in life. So as parents, what do we usually tell our children? Whenever there's a knock at the door, always ask who, each and every time. Okay, that's exactly the basic principle on which Zero Trust is based. Having said that, with the evolvement of time, with the evolvement of technologies, and with the dark web and hackers and the threats getting wiser by the day, organizations have now moved from something that was as simple as trust but verify to something that says never trust, always verify. And that's exactly the theme of the subject that we have today, and the topic that we are going to be discussing and having this fire chat on. Never trust, always verify, ZTA, and how to implement it successfully. ZTA, though, as a concept, I would suggest is not something new. The term itself was coined as early as April 1994, and that was when the internet was not even fully developed. So as early as that, I think most of us would have been passing out of high schools at that time. It was coined as a concept. It was coined by an individual and a gentleman by the name of Stephen Marsh. It was coined as part of his doctorate studies on computers, and it has been around for that long. Okay, and it has always been part of our lives in smaller formats. Even the simple username and password that we use is because we need to verify. So Zero Trust, in a way, has been around. The issue is in terms of the name, and the jury is still out whether we actually need to term it as Zero Trust. But as a concept, it's something that has always been there. But coming to the discussion that we have, ZTA or Zero Trust architecture, interchangeable with also something called ZTNA or Zero Trust Network Access, Network Architecture, or Zero Trust Security Model. All of these mean the same. And my first question will then go to you, Basil, with that background. Zero Trust, we've heard a lot about it. We've basically seen it in the news. We've basically seen people proclaiming about what it is about. What do you think are the significant benefits of a ZTA?
So first of all, good afternoon to everyone. So as a Zero Trust is like security, okay? So security we implement in the organizations to protect the organizations from internal, external, whatever the attacks are there. So Zero Trust, once we implement Zero Trust, it adds, other than providing the security, we should not see Zero Trust only as a framework where it is only protecting the organizations. once you implement a zero trust, it's also encourage the customers. Like nowadays, customers, whenever they want to install any app or they want to deal with any organizations, they first validate, okay, this how sustainable or how secure is the organization which I am dealing with. Like normally, if I see, okay, this is a bank which are getting impacted or getting hacked multiple times, I will not open the account with that bank. So that's what whenever we are implementing zero trust, we need to see how exactly it is benefiting to the organizations. There are a lot of benefits once we implement zero trust, which will be across all the layers. Like if you implement zero trust, you will get, first of all, get the complete inventory of the organizations, how the data is there, where data is there, because most of the time data is there within the organizations on the cloud with the third party which we deal on. So first of all, we get the holistic view of the organization. So that's first benefit which we get. We get a complete inventory. We also get use like operations team. Like once you implement a zero trust with the XDR and all that other new technologies which also talk about zero trust, you get a single centralized console. So now you don't need to run on the different console. So it makes administrator job much easier, so that they can implement a policy from a single console and in much effective way. The other thing which also get is like you get a monitoring and the visibility of entire organizations on the single console, which also help you to detect in case if there is any risk, and you are able to mitigate those risks at the same time. On the user point of view, like as a part of a zero trust, you will be also looking for the single sign-on or the passwordless solutions. So it also enhance the users to use the solutions effectively. Like user don't need to remember the passwords, or if the applications which are SSO integrated, user can log in without any entering username password. So it adds ease to the users for accessing the applications. And top of that, as I mentioned, it also enhance the business to deploy the applications. Like once you have the zero trust framework established, that same framework can be applied for both on-prem cloud, or if they are taking a SaaS or any DaaS model. So it also encourages the business to have their applications or workload wherever they want to host. So there is no dependency on that. And on top of that, it also reduces their time to market. Like once you have all the visibility at the single place, you can also take a call whether you are good with the applications or the services going live for the users, for the customers.
Sure, thanks for that, Basil. So some interesting points made. I think the most key of it is securing your assets. That's the underlying requirement and the underlying objective of zero trust. But you also talked about some non-security benefits in terms of user access, single sign-ons, also time to market, the ability to scale up the platform across fresher applications and deployments. So some interesting points. Hiren, if you have something else to contribute, what do you think are significant?
Sure, Ashton. Hello everybody, good afternoon. Hope we keep the session live. So, zero trust, as we all know, the way it helps is, we won't trust people, technology, anything, right? So anybody who needs to access, who needs to come in, has to verify mandatorily. Now, taking the previous example of what Ashton said in the startup, like we all teach everybody not to open the doors, right? So earlier we had only the main doors, there was no concept of safety doors. Now, why did safety doors come in? Because the moment somebody rings a bell, trusting that it's somebody known, we used to open the main doors. But then incidences happen. So we now have a concept of safety doors. So we open the door, we verify, and then let somebody in. That is exactly what we would like to do in the zero trust. So any device who is going to connect to my network, I don't trust you, first verify. User logs in, I don't trust you, verify. Application doesn't recognize anybody, verify, then come in. So here what happens is, there are benefits like each request is verified and then goes in. So in a way, it will definitely help us identify if there are malicious attacks or malwares working across in the network. It will easily help us identify. Plus, it will help us proactively get some cyber inputs that is something going on in my network, on a device or a user ID. Because ID always needs to come from a single resource. If it doesn't come, and if it's coming from multiple sites, the zero trust will say, how is it possible? Because we'll have our own rules set below. Now, for example, the OTP that we type in, we all know, right? We do net banking and everything, OTP is required. We call up some family member, he shares the OTP, he enters the OTP and the transaction goes through. Now say if there is a rule which says that OTP has to come from an XYZ mobile number or maybe the device ID that is tagged to it, how would it be? Much more secure, isn't it? So these are the certain benefits that will come in as a part of zero trust implementation.
Sure, thanks a lot for that, Hiren. So again, very simply put, I think zero trust would ideally mean neither person or device. So neither a user or a person or a device or a non-person would be allowed access without the continuous inspection, supervision, and monitoring of the access across various points in the network. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. If we've spoken about ZTA now, we've talked about what ZTA is, we've talked about what are the benefits that come out of ZTA implementation, but what would be the key considerations that you as an organization, as an enterprise would like to consider before you get into any ZTA deployment? So Hiren, I will request you if you could start off with.
Yeah, so easier said than done. We need to do our homework. We need to understand the phase-wise manners in which are the easy gainers first, which applications, which user base can first be tried and tested, and then let the success story be built and be saying it altogether from the user's mouth. Because security is always seen as a showstopper. So when we have our own brand ambassadors speaking on behalf of security, it's very easy for adoption, because implementation is one thing and adoption is a second thing. Now, what we should also look at is, starting from periphery, in today's world environment, we all know that there are people working from a work from home environment or remote working. So these are the ideal candidates. The applications which are hosted, these are the ideal candidates which should be identified.
Sure, thanks for that, Hiren. Basil, you would have any additional thoughts or views?
Yeah, so first of all, to my understanding, like whenever you want to implement ZTA solutions, you first need to have the complete visibility what exactly you want to protect. Like for in terms of organizations, what is the data? Okay, what is the data flow? Where you want to have the protections around. So like for example, I'll specifically talk about the data. Okay, so like once you identify this is the critical data, then what need to be done for the critical data? You need to do the classifications, then you need to do the tagging, you need to do the marking. So whenever the data is transferred within the organizations, within the different departments, how exactly it is getting controlled with the DLP solutions. Then there are IRM solutions, managed file transfer solutions, CASB solutions. So these all solutions need to be integrated, and then we have to stitch the solutions. So I think first we need to identify what exactly we want to protect, and then we can take it forward accordingly for implementing a zero trust for that particular component.
Okay, so if I've understood both of you correctly, we basically say that zero trust key consideration is to develop a framework that suits your enterprise, suits your organization, and is unique to it. That can be done by way of a risk assessment to be able to assess what are the critical assets, what are your crown jewels. And given today's world, today's advanced technologies, developments, cloud, etc., various third gen, fourth gen technologies, we always need to concentrate on data, be it in transit, in use, under processing, or even at rest.
Yeah, on top of that, I just want to add, like whatever the solutions we are selecting, we need to see how the solutions are scalable. Like we don't want to get stitched to a particular solution. Like we were asking, like a previous panel was talking, like in case if you are moving the data to the cloud, and because of the new regulations, like recently we got some regulations from regulators, where they're asking for data localizations. This is just a framework. So we need to, whenever we are doing such zero trust deployment, we also need to see how feasible it is in case if this thing won't work, how we'll be able to roll back. Okay, and how the company which we are dealing is reliable. Like it should not happen that you implement a solution and suddenly the company goes bankrupt, and then you are left with an option. So those all parameters also need to be considered. Other than technology, those financials and the stabilities also need to be considered whenever you are deploying any zero trust for the organizations.
Sure, Basil. Thanks a lot. Fair point made. Just a pause here. If there are any questions from the audience, I think I can see a hand raised up. So, thank Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. The question is like one side we say that we need a customer experience, we need an SSO kind of solutions where you need to verify the first app and rest all apps are do a single sign-on. So how do we maintain the trust now? What is the best way to policy to maintain the trust between these apps so that we need to verify each and every app when they are take part of the SSO?
So, sorry, I didn't get your good name.
Sanjay.
Sanjay, you want anyone in particular to address the question, or you fine with any panel taking it?
Anyone, if Basil.
Okay, thank you.
So first of all, there are two things into that. Okay, so applications normally all the organizations are talking about passwordless, like ZTA, which we talk about. Passwordless is one of the new things what all players are talking about. So first of all, for trust relations, if the applications integrate with AD, whatever the passwordless solutions are there, they can very well establish a trust relation. So I'll give you example, like normally the passwordless solutions, they work on tokenizations. Okay, so when you deploy the app, you have to one time enter the username and password on that particular mobile app. Okay, and your token gets generated. So for rest of your career or whatever the token, so the authentication is based on the token. Okay, so all the requests from your applications will go to the IDP solutions, and IDP solutions will validate, okay, if this is coming from a genuine source, because there is a combinations like a mobile device that they use some component of the mobile device's username password. On that basis, a token is generated. So in case if you lose the mobile devices, then the token is regenerated again. So this thing can be done, and also they are ready to integrate with the legacy application which does not support auth or SAML based authentication. So that's very much possible, and I think they are also using a blockchain or the latest generation of technology which cannot be tampered with to till my knowledge. So that thing can be done.
Okay.
So I don't know whether that has fully addressed your question. If Hiren wants to come in.
So one thing is like, anyway the subject line says it, zero trust.
Right.
So along with SSO, I understand that we want to have an overrider.
Right.
But then it is something that you need to take a call, because we don't want to trust people coming in, right? So verification is the only process.
Yes.
And you have to stick to it if you want to achieve that.
Okay.
So
you're saying that SSO would not be a solution?
technically
for
right?
Okay.
Zero trust means that, isn't it?
Right.
And so zero trust would definitely, see, each technology has its pros and cons.
Right.
So somewhere you will have user management increasing, you will have application onboarding increasing. These are, I take it as a cons, but in a larger run, if you see, this will help you in a way.
Okay.
So like device management overheads will be more, user access management overheads will be more,
Right.
application onboarding goes up, right?
Yeah.
So because we want to verify at each stage, now why do we want to do that? Because we want to see a complete trail of a person coming in and going out with at verification with each stage. If you don't have it, you don't have a trail for you, isn't it?
Right.
So that's why it is very important with zero trust, technically.
Okay.
Well said, Hiren. Again, I'll sum it up, Sanjay. SS on as a concept is basically to ease and make it more convenient to the user. But SS on, and you can look at it practically within your organizations also, are usually for complementary systems. They're usually club systems that are complements to each other, which is with a single sign-on. They don't really take in, and I'm just giving you an example, they will not take in an internal system, which is your HR's portal, along with a production system, which is basically what you deal with clients, and pass it through a single sign-on. So it's more of a complement, it's more for convenience that they try to manage out of that.
Okay. Thank you.
So thanks both of you for your responses. If there are any further questions, otherwise I'll just move through with the conversation. Okay, so what we have discussed this far is in terms of ZTA, what is zero trust, what is the architecture, what do we see as benefits, and what are the key considerations. Let's get into the execution phase of it now and the implementation of zero trust. I would want to call upon both of you, and I'll start with you, Basil. What do you see in terms of deployment from your past experience in terms of ZTA deployment? What are the examples and what are the experiences you hold there? What do you think were the challenges faced there, and how did you best mitigate them?
Okay. So, like in my career, we like all the organizations normally have some or other component of zero trust. So I'll specifically talk about the zero trust which we try to implement for the end users. So like traditional VPN solutions, everyone know how vulnerable they are and how easy it can be exploited. So we try to implement solutions for the end users, focusing on the end users, like whenever the users are sitting in office or they are sitting at home, the same application should be accessed to them. They should not be able to access any other application like in traditional VLAN. So in case if the user is part of that VLAN, he'll be able to access all the other applications. So we have implemented those controls. And using the passwordless solution, which I was talking earlier, so using that combinations, we try to have the granular level of visibility and also authorize the genuine users or only the users who are supposed to access the applications. On the challenges part, what we face is like having the understanding what exactly each user need the access, because within the department also each user were having a different kind of accesses which was requested. So that was the key piece which we tried to identify and then created the policies currently. So that's how we took it forward from there.
So I think from implementation standpoint, what I would like to share is, in the startup, Ashton had said that the primary principle is trust and verify. Zero trust says, I don't trust, but you have to verify. We start with that, right? So we need to know what all things we need to verify and try, take it forward, right? So when we define a strategy, we need to know what is the right mix. When I say right mix is the applications, the users, the devices, and the type of accesses which would be needed. Because when you say zero trust, it is a time-bound activity, what I would take it. X person needs an access, so the access has to be contextual plus period defined. So that this person needs to have this access for this amount of time. It justifies the baseline of zero trust. We have to be more information or business data centric in terms of verification when a request comes, whether it is from a user, from a system, an application, whatsoever it is. And the connection that is going to connect to my network, the device, that has to be verified. The connection needs to be verified because you might be sitting in a cafe or even at your home. When you're connecting through your Wi-Fi, open Wi-Fi routers, right? Have we ever patched our Wi-Fi routers? Nobody patches it. We don't even know how to patch it. We have that original device which is being used from the day it was implemented. We do everything, but the home Wi-Fi routers are never patched. So verification, so all these things has to be taken into consideration when we think of implementation.
Okay, so very well said, both of you. Again, if I'm just trying to summarize what I've heard, key to implementation is to get your strategy right. The other thing that I can see that here is it's not a one size fits all. It is something that is unique to every organization, and it definitely involves a cultural shift because we will be challenging authority out here. Okay, so there will be senior officials, senior management in the organization who are used to doing things in a certain way, who are used to doing it their way. That will no longer be possible. You will challenge authority, so that requires a cultural shift in understanding, and therefore it requires the support of all stakeholders right up from the top to the bottom. Okay, thanks for that, both of you. I'll try to end up with the last question, and how can we miss it out? We constantly talk about remote work, work from anywhere, new normal, COVID effect. All of these have happened in the recent past. What, in your opinion, is the impact from a ZTA perspective? Do you see any impact on it, either adverse or beneficial, from a ZTA strategy perspective? So Hiren, I'll ask you to go first.
Okay, so I think I'll speak on both the aspects, the advantages and disadvantages. Advantages, I think we all are pretty much sure what the advantages are. We'll always have a verified user coming in and validated. Now the cons are, as I said some time back, you need to manage your assets very well. You need to have your asset inventory. Onboarding of assets will take time. Application onboarding will take time. User access onboarding and access management again will take time. So these are the 3-4 cons, which will come along with it. But from an organizational standpoint, I think this hard work is much doable, and it is worth, because it's kind of a one-time job to onboard everything. Then it is business as usual, right? That won't be that much of overload on a admin part. So I think one-time job, good efforts, and why we should do it? Because then you have a complete insight. You can of what is going on into your network, what is going on into systems, how the users are connecting. You will be in a process of having proactive alerts before something hits you. That is one way of looking at it.
Sure, thanks for that, Hiren. Basil, you want to go?
The remote is new normal. So, but as I see more of the companies are moving to clouds, because that's where the most of the things are getting done. Because but traditionally when we used to have suppose for a EDR agent, when it has to be deployed on-prem, you need a lot of servers on a lot of compute to have the better understanding. Like you have to give the lot of inputs so that AI ML engine can get learn, and they can take up decision faster. But with the cloud adoption of these solutions, I think they are doing a pretty good work in terms of detecting. From security angle, I think the solutions which are like developed in the clouds are giving much more security compared to what I have seen the solution deployed on the on-premise.
Sure, thanks for that. My personal take on this will be purely from a hybrid working new normal that we call it. The pandemic per se was an event in our lifetime. It's an event with regards where mankind is concerned. And it has got a cascade effect on a lot of things that we've done, not just within technology, but within our personal lives as such. Having said that, where zero trust is concerned, as I started this conversation, it's been around for eternity. It's just been in different forms that we know it as, and therefore it will continue. The pandemic, the hybrid work, the new normal, the remote and work from anywhere has just accelerated certain things, but it's something that is always there to stay. Okay, and with that, I will now welcome Hiren. If you've got any final words around the entire subject and the theme.
I think as security, as I said earlier also, like should be business enabler, and at the same time, we should also have the confidence in what we are doing is right. And over the ages, so even security has taken its own stand, and we searched the risks, and we have gone ahead and done so many implementations of new technology. So I think this is also something new which can always be explored in a nutshell for business and our benefits.
So as Hiren mentioned, we should act as a business enabler. At the same time, we also need to make the business and the management aware, okay, what is the benefit of implementing this solutions or technologies. Because if we talk only about security, they will not understand, or they will not have that kind of support what we expect from them. So we need to make management understand in the language which they normally understand. Like if you do a risk quantification and you give them the numbers, they understand numbers better than what we understand. So that's the reason, like whenever we are talking to management, we have to talk in the same language, and we should implement security in the transparent as possible. I mean, like you should not have multiple agents, or you should not depend on the support from the users. Like for the end user point of view, you should not have that kind of dependency on them. And also the solution should be effective, which is easy to use. You should not complicate it much so that it becomes difficult to use for the end users.
So you said an unsaid rule for all boardrooms: show the management an ROI, a 2x, a 3x ROI, and they'll be interested. Okay. With that, I will end this conversation with a final summary from my side. Again, we've discussed zero trust, as we said. We've talked about what zero trust is, what are the key considerations, how do you go about implementing it, what are the challenges you face, how can we best mitigate those challenges. I will summarize it with a couple of sentences. Zero trust is evolving, and it is a journey, not a destination. It's something that requires long-term commitment, financial and non-financial backing, and it is something where every stakeholder has a role to play. With that, thanks everyone for your time and your patience. I'll just open it for any final questions, if any.
Hi. I will not take much time. Just a quick question on that.
Got 2 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. So first thing is there any regulation around having implementing ZTNA? And again, if no, what is your perspective as a panelist? What do you think should be a right approach implementing ZTNA across organizations? So I'm sure not every organization is having a good security budget of over 5 CR or 10 CR. So in such scenarios, what is the right approach?
Sure, thanks for that question. I don't know if any one of you want to go first with it. So again, I didn't get your good name, sorry.
Sunil.
Yes, Sunil. So good point and good query you made. From my understanding, as far as I know where I stand, we do not have a uniform regulatory requirement around ZTNA. Okay, there's nothing which says that it's a mandate. I know that in some industries there is a thought process saying that should be a minimum standard requirement around how things are done. I come from the BFSI space and I come from the regulatory place. So we know that RBI has recently imposed a piece on tokenization, etc. Those are in ways subtle methods of zero trust, if you can call it that, because it's saying always verify. It doesn't use the term zero trust, it says still verify. So there are certain nuances across industry. Within the regulatory space, we have seen a few, but there is no standard rule as such where we stand today, which spans all industry segments. So that's the first point that you made. The second point is something that we already covered. It's key considerations. There is nothing which we say is one size fits all. There's nothing that is available in the market where it's just a play and plug into your infrastructure and we are up and running. We were not ZTA yesterday, we are ZTA today. That's nothing like that. It's something that evolves. It's something that you have to learn and grow with. It's something that you have to understand, you have to assess, and then try to build up. And it comes on a case-to-case basis. Organization to organizations may differ.
Just to add what Ashton said, see, all the organizations normally have some component of ZTA. Like if you have AD, you are on that journey of ZTA. So whatever your final goals is, that you will not get a budget. Like I was talking about the data security. So 5-6 solutions are required. So you will not get a budget approval from management at the same time. So if you want to have data security, you have to first create a strategy. Okay, this all solutions or this all technology I will require. And then over the period of time, you can keep on getting those technology or solutions, and you can then integrate and then finally reach to that stage where you can call, okay, I have done a ZTA for data. So like that.
So I think what I can add on is, we can start small and build big. This is the case studies that we develop. And as we succeed, once we have the proven case studies, I think the approvals will definitely come in.
So unfortunately, we are out of time officially. If there are further questions, I will request the audience to basically take it up with us offline one-on-one, if that's fine with us, because we're just out of time. So thanks everyone once again. Thanks to my panelists. Thanks Hiren. Thanks Basil for your inputs and your time. And wishing you all a nice session ahead too. Bye.
Holding on to the thought of never trust and always verify, thank you speakers for explaining us about the ZTA, Zero Trust architecture, and telling us about how crucial it is for the enterprises now. Now I would like to request Sunil Kulkarni, Vice President and Chief Information Officer, Protein eGov Technologies Limited, to please come up at the stage and present the mementos. Basil M. Dange, Chief Information Security Officer, Aditya Birla, Sun Life AMC Limited. Congratulations, sir. Ashton Cruz, Director, CAO, CGO, CISO and Head, NatWest Market. Thank you for joining, sir. Hiren Pandya, Chief Information Security Officer, Reliance Nippon Life Insurance. Thank you for coming, sir.